Okay, so this past weekend was actually really good, y'all. Friday night, I went to this open mic night, which was random, but honestly so amazing. Just seeing people get up there and do their thing with no filter, no fear, it was just really cool to witness. It gave me a little spark, honestly. And it put me in my feelings, but in a good way. And then Saturday, I woke up, I had a really good workout. I went to the nail salon, I came home, took a nap, and ended my night getting on the Peloton. I didn't go out, so I just chose to stay in with my dog and let the day be what it was. And that felt really good also. And then Sunday, I started the day with the gym and then I went and grabbed lunch with my family. Nothing big, just easy conversation, good laughs, and real presence. You know, when you're around people and nobody just needs anything from you, it was one of those moments. Simple but grounding. And the whole weekend made me stop and realize how lucky I really am to be able to choose how I move, to say yes or no, to stay in, go out, switch it up, reset. And I think sometimes we forget what a gift that is. So if you've been waiting for a sign or for someone to say it's okay to do something different with your life, then this is it. You don't need a green light. You don't need permission. You don't need anyone's blessing or approval or understanding, even. You already have everything you need. And the wild part is, you've always been it. So I'm excited to talk to you about today's episode, how you are the answered prayer. Let's jump right into it.
She's not just a podcast host, she's a movement.
Manda Lea is teaching people how to break cycles and build real wealth, mentally, financially, and spiritually.
People all over the world are waking up to her message.
Wired to be Rich isn't just a podcast, it's a mindset shift.
She makes you believe again in yourself, in your power, in your ability to actually have the life you always known was meant for you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manda Lea, entrepreneur, speaker, and founder of Balance and Destiny, and this is Wired to be Rich. What really changed my life wasn't some big event. It wasn't a breakthrough moment or some random burst of motivation. It was the day I stopped overthinking and just decided to move. Not because everything was perfect, not because I was fully ready, but because I realized staying where I was felt heavier than whatever unknown might come next. The truth is, most people spend months, years even, stuck in indecision, telling themselves they're processing or waiting on clarity when really they're just afraid. We wait for a sign, we wait to feel ready, we wait for someone else to say, yeah, that makes sense. And all that waiting becomes a habit. Because at some point you have to realize clarity isn't always something you get handed. A lot of time it's something you generate by choosing, by moving, by trusting that even if it's not perfect, it's aligned enough to start. People love to say the hardest part of growth is leaving the job, ending the relationship, or walking away from the version of you that doesn't fit anymore. But let's be honest, that part is straightforward. What's actually hard is the in-between, the middle, that space where you've outgrown your old life, but the new one hasn't fully arrived yet. You're not performing anymore, but you're not fully received either. You feel different, but nothing around you has changed yet, and that space is quiet. It's disorienting. It's even lonely sometimes, but it's sacred. That's where you build capacity. That's where you start choosing yourself in silence without applause. That's where your real identity takes shape, because it's no longer being shaped by what's familiar or who's watching. And here's the part that people overlook. You have the ability to change your life without waiting for a moment of divine intervention. You don't need a breakdown to rebuild. You don't need a prayer to be answered in order to act, because you are not powerless. You are not waiting on permission. You have will. You have the ability to choose, and that's not just motivational. It's backed by how the brain and body work. Your nervous system learns safety from repetition. Your beliefs come from conditioning, not truth. Neuroplasticity means your brain is literally designed to change. So when you start thinking differently, acting differently, or deciding differently, you're not being reckless. You're literally reprogramming. You're remembering your agency. You're no longer surviving, you're healing. That's why you don't have to rely on prayer alone. Prayer has power, yes, but it's not meant to replace your own. It's meant to support it. Hoping is not a strategy, and waiting is not an action. You're not here to sit in limbo hoping life figures itself out, right? You are here to partner with your own becoming, to move, to choose again as many times as it takes until your life reflects what you know is possible. And when you start living like that, rooted, intentional, and grounded, you stop feeling frantic. You stop making reactive decisions. You stop outsourcing your power to other people's opinions or timelines or fears. You get calm. You get clear. You get energy shifts. The way you speak changes. Your relationships change. And most of all, your tolerance changes. You can't unsee what you've seen, and you can't unknow what you know. And once you've experienced that kind of clarity, your life will start rising to meet it because it has no choice. And let me be clear. None of this means I don't believe in God, because I do, deeply. But I believe in a God who created us with free will for a reason. I don't believe we were put here to live small, stay stuck, or wait to be rescued. That mindset where you're constantly begging for something outside of you to shift isn't faith. That's fear dressed up as submission. I believe God lives in us. That inner knowing, the conviction that keeps coming back even when you try to ignore it, that is guidance. That is the divine speaking through you. And I believe we were given that so we could partner with it, not replace it, not override it. Partner with it, co-create. Because yes, God opens doors, but we still have to walk through them. Yes, God plants the seed, but we're responsible for how we water it. And when you finally start trusting that voice, taking action on what you already know, honoring the wisdom that's been nudging you for months or even years, that's when things move. That's when your life starts unfolding in ways you couldn't have strategized on your own. Not because of luck and not because you forced it, but because you aligned. So no, I'm not dismissing faith. I'm not saying we don't need help or grace or divine timing. I'm saying we were built to carry that partnership with us. You don't have to wait for someone to choose you. You don't need to beg for your breakthrough. You already are equipped. You are the prayer, the answered prayer. You are the permission. You are the one, and God moves with you. But before we go any further, I want to take a second and shout out the sponsor of today's episode, Balance and Destiny. At Balance and Destiny, we help individuals not just find jobs, but elevate their career, negotiate their worth, and walk into rooms they once thought were off limits. Whether you're pivoting into a new industry, building confidence after a setback, or finally ready to own your voice in the workplace, we're here to help you do it with strategy and power. We don't believe in cookie cutter templates or generic advice. We believe in clarity, in alignment, and real support that actually moves the needle. From resume revamps to one-on-one coaching, interview prep, salary negotiation guidance, and LinkedIn optimization, we help you step into your next chapter prepared, positioned, and rooted in your value. So if you're tired of playing small in your professional life and you know there's more for you out there, visit www.balancedestiny.com or tap the link in the show notes. Let's get you unstuck and unapologetic. All right, now back to the episode. So the big question is, why are people afraid of all of this? And the answer is because freedom is terrifying when you've been taught to fear yourself. When you've been conditioned to find safety in sameness and praise in obedience. When your entire sense of worth has been tied to how well you follow rules that were never designed with your expansion in mind. The truth is, people know they're powerful. Deep down, they know. You know. But power comes with responsibility. And responsibility is heavier than failure because once you accept how free you really are, you can't unsee it. You can't pretend to be powerless anymore. You realize the pen's been in your hand the entire time. And suddenly, the job isn't the reason. The relationship isn't the reason. The trauma, the upbringing, the system, none of it gets to be the excuse anymore. And that kind of realization, that's not light. It breaks everything you were taught to depend on. But here's what nobody tells you. You really can do whatever you want. And I don't mean that in a cute or poetic way. I mean literally. You could wake up tomorrow and change your name. Get on a plane, move cities, quit, start over, build a whole new identity and live differently without asking for permission first. Take away all the logistics. What's actually stopping you? Because the answer is nothing. Now, yes, when it comes to the people you love, of course you want to include them. You want to share your heart. You want to bring them with you where you can. That's connection. That's care. But that's not the same as needing approval. It's not the same as delaying your own growth just so nobody else feels uncomfortable. There's a difference between being kind and being bound. You don't owe people your evolution in a way that makes it palatable for them. And that's why people don't always like folks who move like this, because people who move in truth make other people question their performance. People who walk freely remind others of how long they've stayed stuck. And instead of being inspired by that kind of clarity, they get defensive. They call it selfish or delusion, and they tell you to be realistic. But what's actually delusion? What is actually delusional? Living your entire life for other people's comfort. That's delusion. Waking up each day to perform a version of yourself that's digestible but not honest. Living according to silent rules and watered down dreams. That's not peace, that's emotional compliance. And that's spiritual burnout. And way too many people are living like that, trying to stay loved by being easy to digest while quietly suffocating in lives they never chose. Once you reach this level of freedom, real energetic sovereignty, you don't become colder, you don't become detached. You actually become more compassionate. You become more discerning, more present. You stop reacting to everything. You stop needing to be right, validated, or agreed with. You understand that people are where they are, and you no longer take it personally. You don't disconnect from society. You just stop letting it dictate your worth. And you choose when and how you engage and where your energy goes. You choose your yes based on alignment, not obligation. You give from overflow, not from depletion, guilt, or performance. Or you no longer sacrifice yourself to be included. And that creates a different kind of generosity, a cleaner one. Your relationships improve, not because you're trying harder to fit in, but because you've stopped performing your identity. You're no longer curating your personality to be digestible. You're embodying who you actually are, and that embodiment creates clarity. The right people recognize it, and the wrong ones fall away. No drama, just realignment. But you only get there if you're willing to break free first. If you're willing to tell yourself the truth about what no longer fits, even when it's uncomfortable. If you're willing to stop delaying the shift because it might ruffle feathers or change the dynamic. If you're willing to remember who you are before the roles, before the pressure, before the expectations, then you found the right podcast. Because that's the real secret. You are the creator. You always have been. In your life, it doesn't have to make sense to anyone but you. The power to shift, to move, to evolve, it's already in you. It always was. I don't live like this because I'm rebellious. I live like this because I remembered. I remembered that I wasn't put here to shrink, to perform, or to wait for permission to live a life that feels like mine. I remembered that I'm not waiting to be chosen because I already am. Not by the crowd, not by someone's opinion, not by status or title. I'm chosen by being here, by breathing, by knowing deep in my spirit that alignment doesn't require applause. It doesn't need to be explained. It just has to be true. I remember that the only thing keeping me stuck was a quieter version of me who was afraid to be misunderstood. Afraid that if I moved too boldly, too freely, too honestly, someone would leave. Someone would judge. Someone wouldn't get it. But the truth is, I can't keep living a life designed for people who don't even have to live it. I can't keep playing small just because that version of me was easier for others to digest, and neither can you. You're not stuck or lost or behind. You're simply being invited to remember, to return to the part of you that always knew, the part that felt things before they made sense, the part that didn't need validation to trust its own voice. That's your power, not because you're above anyone, but because you're finally walking with your eyes open. You don't have to keep waiting, and you don't need to keep explaining either. You don't need anyone else to understand the assignment in order for you to complete it. You are the answered prayer. You are the proof. You are the permission you've been waiting for. And when you really embody that, not as a quote, but as a way of being, everything around you shifts. Not because the world changed, but because you did. If this episode resonated with you, let it. Let it sink in, not just as inspiration, but as instruction. You don't need another sign because you are the sign, so go live like it. And if you're feeling that fire lit inside you right now, share this with someone who's been waiting on themselves too. Until next time, keep daring, keep showing up, and remember, inspired from one of my upcoming travels, Wie niet wat, die niet wint, which is Dutch for he who dares wins. See you next time on Wired to be Rich.